Hey everyone, FFJmon here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a movie review, and the movie that I'm going to be reviewing is none other than the second movie in the Pokemon movie franchise, and that is none other than Pokemon The Movie 2000. Now, I saw this movie today, and I wanted to give it a review. I have seen it before when I was younger, but I wanted to rewatch it as an adult, review the movie, kind of give you guys my thoughts, and kind of do something similar to what I did for the first movie, is give a review on what I thought of the movie. So we're going to be doing that today for Pokemon The Movie 2000. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also let me know your thoughts on Pokemon The Movie 2000 and let me know if you guys liked it or thought it was a good movie. So hope you guys enjoy. And without further ado, let's get started. All right, so first we're going to start just by talking about the plot of the movie. So I'm just going to give a little summary of the plot of Pokemon The Movie 2000. Then I'm going to go into kind of some pros and cons of what I liked about the movie, what I didn't like about the movie, and then after that I'll give you guys my review out of 5 stars on whether or not, I like the movie, and kind of give you guys a movie review of that movie. And before I begin talking about the plot, I just wanted to give out a spoiler warning. I'm going to talk about spoilers in this movie. I know the movie is over 25 years old, but just wanted to throw that out there that I am going to be talking spoilers here. So yeah, so no one, hopefully, if you don't want to get spoiled, please don't watch the video after this point. All right, so going into the plot, let me pull up my notes here just so I can kind of remember what was going on. But basically, there's this villain called Lawrence the Third, and we don't actually, I don't think, find out his name in the movie. We just kind of know from the people who made the movie that his name is Lawrence the Third. But basically, he is a Pokemon collector. So he kind of just is going around collecting various things. He has like this really cool ship that has all this cool technology, and collects fine pieces of art, and he seems like he likes to collect valuable things. And basically the premise of the start of this movie is he's trying to collect all the legendary birds, so Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. But in order to capture them, he needs to use his ship and basically go to the islands in which they reside and kind of draw them out of their caves or wherever they're kind of hiding on the island, and then ultimately capturing them. But really his grand prize is Lugia, which is kind of the guardian of the 3 birds, and also it kind of keeps them in check. Kind of similar to what Rayquaza does with Kyogre and Groudon, is like if they are fighting each other or kind of get out of line, Rayquaza will come in and kind of quell any of the beef that the Pokemon have with each other. And that's kind of the same way with the 3 birds and Lugia. They kind of are kept in check by Lugia, all kind of have their role in the balance of nature. And we'll soon find out that once these birds start getting eliminated or being captured by Lawrence the Third, then nature and the balance of power kind of get thrown off. So Lawrence starts with capturing Moltres. So he basically draws Moltres out and captures Moltres. And yeah, kind of after that, that's when some stuff like nature's kind of getting out of balance. Some of the Pokemon start to notice that, hey, stuff's acting weird. The waves in the ocean are kind of acting up a little bit, and that's kind of the first sign of, okay, stuff isn't really right when Lawrence captures Moltres. Now, meanwhile, Ash and the gang, so it's Ash, Tracy, and Misty, so this is the team that he travels with during the Orange Island arc of the anime, and they're just, traveling on a boat, doing their normal adventures, and they're being escorted by this woman. I don't remember her name. She's the one driving the boat. But essentially the waves kind of get crazy and they kind of get thrown off course, and they end up getting onto this island that is inhabited by this population of people that are wearing all these crazy masks and stuff. And they basically like have this ritual and about like collecting different orbs. So Ash basically arrives on the island. There's like this ritual where like tourists have to collect these 3 orbs on these 3 different islands that represent the 3 legendary birds, and they bring them back to the shrine. And then after that, they like sing a song or play a song commemorating the event, essentially. So yeah, Ash is kind of tasked to do this when he goes on the island. There's this girl Melody who's on the island as well, who kind of has a crush on Ash and kind of gives Misty a hard time for not really doing anything with Ash and saying that she's her girlfriend, his girlfriend. And Misty obviously gets a little defensive, but this Melody girl ends up playing the song. Like, she can play the song on this like pipe of like kind of the ritual song of this like ceremony. And there's also like this prophecy about um, taming the three birds and also turning to like the world turning to ash. Like, it's kind of like a weird like prophecy thing going on. But essentially Ash is tasked to collect these orbs. But while he's kind of doing that, Lawrence is also collecting the legendary birds. So Ash is tasked to getting the orbs off the three different islands. Ash ends up going alone to, I think first he goes to the Fire Island and captures the fire orb. And on his way there, he also sees Slow King and talks to him for a little bit. But yeah, he essentially gets the fire orb from the Fire Island. And then after he gets the Fire Island orb, Zapdos arrives because he realizes that, hey, Moltres isn't here. He's been taken by Lawrence III. I kind of now have dominion over this island because Moltres isn't here anymore. He ends up kind of talking to Pikachu and saying like, hey, yeah, like I'm kind of taking over now. And then after that, Lawrence III comes and captures Zapdos. So basically Ash went to the Fire Island, got the Fire Orb. Zapdos goes to the Fire Island because he realizes Moltres isn't there, kind of takes over. But then Lawrence realizes, oh, Zapdos is at Fire Island. So he goes and captures Zapdos. Then, yeah, and then kind of along with this, all the Pokemon across the world are kind of sensing this doom because the balance of nature is kind of getting thrown off with these birds getting captured. So now two birds are captured. And then Ash basically is met up with Tracy and Misty. So Ash basically goes to the island, and then Tracy and Misty come with. So does Team Rocket. So now all of them are kind of on the island. Then, I guess while Zapdos is getting captured, they also get captured and brought up to Lawrence III's ship. Lawrence III kind of tells them what he's doing, and then they realize, oh shoot, like this guy is bad. So they then basically use their Pokemon to break free Moltres and Zapdos, and they basically crash Lawrence III's ship. So they were on Fire Island. When all this kind of commotion happens, they crash on Lightning Island, and then once that happens, Ash collects the Lightning Island orb. So he gets that, and there's kind of fighting now between Moltres and Zapdos, but then in the chaos, Lugia essentially like saves them. So Lugia kind of comes from the deep, saves Ash and his friends, and then Ash ends up going to this island that has the shrine where he needs to put all the three orbs, and he puts the first two orbs in the shrine and realizes, oh shoot, okay, I got the fire orb, the electric orb. Now I need to get this ice orb from where Articuno is. And then, yeah, Articuno kind of comes out. He starts fighting as well. Lugia is essentially like fighting all three of the birds, but he kind of, is outmatched and can't really do it alone. So then he kind of is Ash's escort to get to Articuno's island in order to get the ice orb, because basically Lugia says if he gets the ice orb and puts it back in the shrine, and then that song that the Melody girl plays, if he gets all the orbs back and she plays the song, it basically will quell the disaster of the birds and will kind of make them stop fighting and kind of have them be put back in their place and return to their islands. So that's kind of the goal. So like what kind of ended up being just like Ash collecting these orbs, it seemed like just for this ritual that was part of the island people, this is what they wanted him to do. It actually ended up being important because while he was collecting these orbs, Lawrence III was also taking the birds, and then now the orbs are needed in order to stop the birds from basically destroying the world and Lugia from dying from the birds. So Ash basically tries to have Lugia escort him. He kind of is stopped in his tracks halfway down. Team Rocket then kind of helps him get to that island and get the orb. Once he gets the orb, Lugia basically has him ride on his back. And Ash and Lugia are now trying to get back to that island that has the shrine where they can put the orbs. So kind of during that time, Ash and Lugia are basically fighting Lawrence the Third because, yeah, Lugia is able to kind of fend off the birds, but then Lawrence the Third is basically trying to capture Lugia. So Lugia essentially does like a hyper beam on Lawrence the Third's ship and like really destroys it for good. But Lugia ends up going down from his injuries, and then Ash also goes down, so Misty kind of goes and rescues him from the water. Lugia's kind of fallen down in the ocean to the abyss. But then once Ash is saved by Misty, he ends up having the sphere and is able to return it to the shrine. So then that kind of activates the shrine, activates this little area that allows Melody to play her song. And then once she plays her song, the three birds that were kind of knocked out from them fighting each other and Lugia end up surviving, reviving, and going back to normal, going back to their islands. Lugia is all kind of done with what he's supposed to do, and yeah, the nature's kind of put back to normal. All the Pokemon that kind of came to witness the disaster kind of go back to where they were because they realize, okay, everything's kind of good now. And then Lugia kind of offers Ash a ride, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So I didn't really realize it till I was kind of explaining the plot, but it's kind of a lot to deal with. And it's kind of simple. It's more simple than I thought it was when I was explaining it, but also I felt like it was just a lot of like filler stuff kind of in between. And some of it was kind of confusing. Plus, I didn't think the villain was really fleshed out that well. But yeah, and plus it's just not the same type of movie as Pokemon the first movie. Like the first movie is epic, and it really sets the stage for one of the coolest Pokemon in the franchise, and I feel like it was just so cool to talk about like Mewtwo and his journey and kind of Ash and the gang dealing with him. But like I feel like this second movie was less about like the villain and his motivation and kind of what he was doing, and it was more about like the scale and like the disaster of the birds and kind of like the majesty of them and kind of Lugia itself. But I don't know, it's just a different type of movie. Not saying I didn't like it. And I'll go into my pros and cons of Pokemon The Movie 2000. And I guess let's start with the pros. I like the jokes that they throw in there. Let me read off a couple of the jokes that I think I took some notes on. So, oh yeah, when Team Rocket was riding in their Magikarp and the water is really rough and they end up kind of crash landing their boat like on a reef or on like a rock cliff. Meowth says, "Oh man, I hope we have carp insurance instead of like car insurance because they're in a Magikarp." I thought that was funny. And he's like, "Oh man, we're gonna be a fillet of fish." So that was also funny. Let's see. Slowking I thought was pretty funny. He was kind of like unnecessary, but I feel like he was just there kind of teasing Gen 2. Because I think this happened, yeah, prior to Gen 2. Obviously, Lugia was a Gen 2 Pokemon. Slowking, Gen 2. And he talked about like needing pants because it was cold. Because like Slowking doesn't wear any pants. So I thought that was funny. Ash also saying like he was the chosen one, but then he was like walking through snow and said, "The chosen one, I feel more like the frozen one." I thought that was funny. I'm trying to think of anything else. Team Rocket, of course, I think they were just funny, and they were like saying they were good guys and bad guys, because like at the end they were kind of debating whether or not like they are actually bad or if they're good, since they kind of helped Ash save the day. And they kind of did a bit where they were saying like, "That's good, that's bad, that's good," and it was like at the end. I thought it was pretty funny. A few other things that I noticed talking about like the characters, I feel like Lawrence the Third himself wasn't really like a fleshed out character, but the idea, he was more like an archetype. And I feel like especially nowadays with the Pokemon collecting hobby and kind of like the state of Pokemon collecting in general, I feel like he kind of represented the dark side of like collecting. Because it's one thing to like collect something and enjoy it and like have an appreciation and love for it, but it's another thing to kind of twist the narrative or twist kind of the intent of collecting and have it more be of like a self-serving type of thing that also kind of takes away the beauty of like what you're collecting, and it also like perverts or kind of diverts the intent of the collecting, and it kind of like, you know, throws everything off and isn't really healthy. And I feel like that was kind of symbolized by like him trying to capture these three birds. It's like, yeah, they're really cool, but should you really be collecting them? I mean, they're birds that have a particular part of nature, and they like are forces of nature, and you really shouldn't like collect them or like keep them prisoner, obviously. But in his whole like career started with him collecting that Mew card, that Mew trading card. And I'm pretty sure that was like a promo card you got from watching the first movie. So they were kind of in a way like a little meta like argument of, hey, you know, we have all these fans that collect Pokemon cards and like collect a lot of Pokemon related things, but there's also, you know, a dark side of collecting. Like you want to collect things and enjoy them and have fun with it, but you also don't want to take it too far and have your collecting kind of become something else that could be harmful to people. And you know, and unfortunately with the Pokemon card hobbyists in particular, and I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of things out there that people blame, like whether it's people like bots trying to buy up a bunch of product and then people trying to resell them at a high price, or yeah, just like the demand of people just trying to buy so much product, and then there's not enough product for people that, you know, just want to buy it and enjoy it, rather than people that want to buy it and then sell it for a lot higher. Like there's a lot of debates, but then it's also kind of on Pokemon for not necessarily like having enough product to go around and the supply and demand. But then also at the same time, it's like capitalism. It's all about supply and demand. Like if there's less supply, the price of these products are going to go up, unfortunately. So if so many people want to buy them, and Pokemon, you know, they're trying their best, but if they can't meet the demand, then yeah, prices are going to go up. So it's interesting. It's an interesting argument and debate. But I feel like this movie, and I don't know if it was really supposed to be that deep, but I just thought it was interesting that Lawrence III kind of represented the dark side of like collecting a little bit, and kind of what happens if that goes a little bit too far. Another thing too, another theme I kind of noticed was about Ash's mom. And I know, I guess I'm not going to spoil it too much, or we'll kind of wait for the third movie to come out, or the third movie to be reviewed, to be watched and reviewed by myself. But I have seen it, but I want to rewatch it and make like a fresh review of it. But the third movie really went into Ash's mom, but this movie kind of did too. Like it talked about how Ash's mom, you know, missed Ash when he obviously he left to go on his journey, and Ash's mom was really supportive and excited that her son got to, when he turned 10, go on his adventure and become a Pokemon master. But this movie kind of also showed that, you know, Ash's mom really missed him and really hoped that he is doing well, and he obviously doesn't want harm to come to him, and obviously he was put into a lot of danger in the previous movie and in this movie, and also just in the anime. He comes across a lot of different things he has to deal with, and Ash's mom kind of, you know, just showed that, wow, like you're my world and you're someone I always cherish, and she worries about him and misses him. And yeah, I thought that was a good way to kind of appease the adults that watched the movie too, and kind of made it a friendly film, not only for the children but also for the parents, to make them, you know, feel good about the movie and make them appreciate kind of what the franchise's messaging was. So I thought that was pretty cool, kind of talking about Ash's mom a little bit and seeing how much she cares for Ash. And then, yeah, let me see, any other positives. Obviously, I like the legendary birds. They're kind of the original legendaries, and yeah, I like them a lot. Zapdos, Articuno, Moltres. Lugia is really cool. I thought like his voice was a really good like voice actor that was voicing Lugia. Again, I like the old style Pokemon movies. Like the noises the Pokemon make are really like authentic and like make sense, I feel like, for the Pokemon that they are used for, as well as like the the cinematography and the like score of the movie, while it's not as iconic as the first movie, I still think it's still very cinematic. Felt like a very cinematic movie, not kind of like a cheap DVD to movie type movie. I could tell it was released like in a movie theater, and it didn't do as well as the first one box office wise, but I read that it still did make a good amount of money. And yeah, it was a good movie. It was a good movie. I'm trying to think of any more pros. It was cool to see some of Ash's Pokemon in there. Got Ash's Charizard, who actually was obeying him, so we know this kind of took place a little bit later in his Orange Island adventures, because there was a certain point where Ash's Charizard went from not obeying him to obeying him, and it was cool to see Ash's Charizard and his Squirtle, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, like all of his Pokemon kind of play a role in the movie. And there wasn't really a lot of battling per se, not a lot of Pokemon battles, just, them trying to save the world and get from place to place while avoiding danger from all the birds. So that was kind of, to go into some of my cons, that was a little disappointing that they didn't really incorporate battling as much into the movie. But yeah, I mean, still a solid movie. Good to see, the different characters in there. And yeah, that was kind of all the pros that I had. So going into some of the negatives, I guess, like I said, it just wasn't as clean and coherent as the first movie. And the whole thing about the prophecy and Ash, like there was a specific line in the prophecy saying like, oh yeah, like if all else fails, the earth will turn to ash. So like the prophecy seemed to specifically talk about like Ash Ketchum and him kind of being like the chosen one to save the day. And I don't know, I feel like it was just kind of cheap, and like it was, I guess, a little funny, but also I don't know, I wasn't really a big fan of like the prophecy and Ash kind of being the only one who could like save the world type deal. And plus just the convenience of him trying to collect all the orbs, but then that ended up being a key to the plot in order to quell the beast, when originally he was doing it just to like fulfill this ritual that was on this island by like the tribe people. So I thought that was a little lazy on their part. And what else? Yeah, I think main thing, Lawrence the Third, he was more of an archetype of a villain, but not really a fleshed out character himself. I wish we got to learn a little bit more about him, and he didn't really show up for that much. Didn't have a lot of screen time. You did see him at the end after all the kind of chaos that was going on, that he said he was going to start his collection over again, so he didn't really learn anything from his experience, it seemed like. And yeah, I don't know. I just wish they did something a little bit better with him. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh yeah, Brock had a quick appearance in there. He was working with Professor Ivy. She was in there as well. So was Professor Oak, Ash's mom. I wish Brock was in there a little bit, but I know this was kind of Orange Islands and Tracy and Misty, but yeah, they didn't really. Misty did some, but Tracy didn't really do much in the movie. They showed a lot of Pokemon, because like the Pokemon kind of came to witness the destruction, but they didn't really do anything. They were just kind of there in the background, so they didn't really play a role, as like more Pokemon kind of played roles in the movie, in the previous movie, but not necessarily in this Pokemon movie 2000. Yeah, overall, it was a solid movie. Not my favorite, I don't think, out of all the Pokemon movies. And I mean, it's hard to kind of top the first one, because they had a lot to live up to and kind of trying to introduce the new Johto region. But I think they did their best. And yeah, it was a solid flick. All right, so now I'm going to give my review of Pokemon The Movie 2000. So for the first movie, I believe I gave it a 5 out of 5. Now for this one, it's definitely not a 5 out of 5. And like I said, it was an enjoyable movie. I like that they kind of fleshed out what was going on during the Orange Island adventures with Ash and Tracy and Misty. But, and yeah, like the legendary birds were cool. Seeing Lugia. Lugia's a pretty cool Pokemon. But yeah, I just feel like the story left a little bit to be desired. And overall, it could have been better. Kind of got a little confusing. So I think overall I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. So I feel pretty comfortable with that. I feel like it's kind of middle of the road, maybe a little bit better than like an average movie, but not really by much. And I know there's other movies in the franchise that definitely do a better job than this movie at kind of setting the scale and making it like a big, grand, kind of cataclysmic event type movie. And I feel like that's kind of what they were going for. They wanted it to be kind of a disaster movie, talking about like the balance of nature and what happens when you try to like, mess up that balance. But I just feel like the execution of it could have been a little bit better. But overall, they were trying to find their footing, trying to make it known that Pokemon could be a successful movie franchise, and I think they are. I mean, they've made over like 20 movies, and I hope they can make some more in the future, but I think they're still going strong, and I think this movie kind of helped cement that Pokemon wasn't just like a one and done type deal. So yeah, I think it was a solid movie. I don't know if it's necessarily aged the greatest, but yeah, I mean, I think overall, still a solid flick, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed my review of Pokemon The Movie 2000. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and please let me know in the comments section what you guys thought of the movie and how you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, hope you guys have a great night. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks.